Hey guys, this week we are going to be doing a little bit of improv with the stand here. You can see the books, it's kind of a cool detail, but we'll be talking about Daniel. And this will be another two-parter. And so we want to begin with just a little breakdown of Daniel and his three friends, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. And so they are all in it's kind of like a school where they're learning and they're getting training experience and being able to live in the king's house and are in pretty close contact with him. They're chosen with a bunch of other people to be essentially like servants of the king. And so they're living in his house. And Daniel does not want to eat the king's food because it's been defiled. This is a pretty common thing that happens in the Old Testament. We see it a little bit in the New Testament too, but anyway, so they don't want to eat the king's food and they don't want to drink the king's wine. And so instead, he goes and asks to the main chef there and says, "Hey, can I eat something else?" And the chef's concern is that, if you guys don't eat the meat here, then you're going to get really skinny and you're going to waste away and die. And we don't want that to happen. And so Daniel says, "No, I'll be fine. We'll be fine. We just want to eat only vegetables. And we'll put it to a test." And so he agrees and says, okay, for 10 days, he will only eat fruits and veggies. And we're going to feed the other servants the king's food. And after the 10 days, we will test and see what happens. We'll see who's bigger. If you're really skinny, then you guys have to eat the king's food. So the 10 days go by, and Daniel and his friends are actually fatter than the king's servants. So they're eating just fruits and veggies, and they've somehow gained weight. And so this is God showing his faithfulness to Daniel's faith and obedience, which is just a testament to how God is going to give some favor to Daniel. And so next, the king has a dream. He has this weird dream about bronze, clay, silver, gold statue. And he's really confused about what it means. He goes to his magicians and his sorcerers and the people who normally interpret his dreams for him. And they are stumped. This is pretty similar to what happens with Joseph, where the king just can't get an answer and he's really confused and really frustrated and tired of people being wrong. And so he tells Daniel, and Daniel says, "We'll interpret your dream for you." And the king is so angry that he says, "Okay, Daniel, if you are wrong, I am going to have you pulled apart limb by limb. And if you're right, you'll be granted a lot of favor and you'll reap a lot of benefits. So reconsider." And Daniel goes back home and he prays to God. He gives thanks to God for being gracious and for being all-knowing. And he's confident that God's going to answer his prayer. And so he goes back and tells King Nebuchadnezzar, "I will indeed interpret your dream for you. I'll take the risk." And so then he goes and he tells the king, "What your dream means is that there's going to be 4 kingdoms, ranging from gold down to clay, and the gold's going to be the strongest, and they're going to fall apart slowly." I'm kind of summarizing a little bit there. But the king is satisfied with this answer. He's super happy. He then promotes Daniel to, he has some leadership positions. He promotes his friends to leadership positions, and he blesses Daniel and his friends. So now they're sitting kind of pretty. Again, pretty similar to Joseph here. He gains the king's favor. And so then what happens next is, they have a little bit of power now, and the king makes an idol. It's we don't know if it's an idol of actually him or what, but he makes a golden idol, and he says that whenever you hear these bells and this music playing, you've got to worship and bow down to this idol. And so Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego are not down with that. And every time the music plays, they don't worship because they only want to worship the one true God and they don't want to get caught up in idolatry. So props to them. We like to hear that kind of story. And so eventually some people are really angry with them and they snitch on them. And they say, "Hey, king, these guys over here who are in your favor, they have positions of leadership in your house. They are not worshiping your idol like you instructed. They're disobeying you and they're pretty much trying to diss you." And so the king is like, "Okay, we can't be having that. That's disrespectful." And so he gets really, really angry, gets super hot. That's kind of a joke for what's going to happen next. So he says, okay, since you guys don't want to bow down and worship me, I will throw you into a furnace. And we want that fire to be 7 times hotter than normal. I don't really know how that happens because fire is fire, but he somehow makes it 7 times hotter than normal. And so the people who are throwing Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the furnace actually die because of how hot it is. And so they walk into the furnace, and then the guards are watching them because they want to watch them burn and make sure that they die. And they look inside and see 4 people. Now, if you remember, there was only 3 people who were sent in there. Daniel didn't get sent in. So they see these 3 guys who they sent into the fire, and then a 4th guy somehow appears. And the king is like, whoa, what the heck? So then he calls them to come out, and they come out of this furnace. People go into remember, the guards who put them in died because of how hot it was, and they were actually in there for a while. And so they come out. The 4th person turned out to be an angel. Not a hair on their heads is singed. So they look completely unaffected by the furnace. And rightfully so, the king is like, okay, well, your God must be the right God, and we're going to bow down and worship him from now on. And so he makes the God of Daniel and his 3 friends like the God of the nation, which is kind of a crazy turnaround considering he had just made the law that everybody has to worship his idol. But this is a good example of God's faithfulness to Daniel, and Daniel's faithfulness and confidence in God, as well as also his 3 friends. They were confident that because earlier God had been faithful to them with the food restrictions, he would also be faithful in saving them. Because the king kind of taunted them a little bit and said, oh, you guys want to worship your own God? Like, who's going to save you when I throw you in this fire pit? And then God saved them when they went into the fire pit. So, joke's on King Nebuchadnezzar. But they were saved, and this is the end of part 1. We'll see you guys soon. Bye.